And welcome back to Missional Mamas, the podcast where we interview mums from around the world and share their stories of missions and motherhood and what it looks like to raise your kids, whether you're on the mission field or you're at home doing the hard work in an everyday, ordinary setting. I want to encourage you to hear other mums and hear from their wisdom and their stories and their challenges, and may it be a huge blessing to you and encourage you to raise your kids in light of the gospel and in light of our Great Commission to go and make disciples. And so I'm so glad that you're here with us, and I'm so glad that you're following along this fun journey. Over the last few weeks, I've been praying about and hoping to sort of increase how much we're doing with Missional Mamas. And as much as that is like a little terrifying for me, I'm really excited because what I'm hoping to do is share a little bit of my journey in this process of learning what it's like to be a missional mum. I am not living in the mission field currently, but I am. And I want people to understand that everywhere is your mission field. Your home, your neighborhood, your community, your church, anywhere is your mission field. And the Lord has called us all to this very beautiful season of motherhood. And despite it being really challenging sometimes, it is so beautiful and such an opportunity. And so with all the things that I've been learning from these mums that I've been interviewing, I've been reading and I listened to a lot of other things. I've been kind of going on this journey with the Lord of figuring out, how does this look? What does this look like when I'm not necessarily serving day in and day out in ministry? I'm not necessarily planting a church. I'm not in the mission field. But what does it look like to be living intentionally and missionally, even when I'm not doing that? What does that look like in every day? And so I just wanted to invite you to share this journey with me and kind of come along. I want you to reach out with questions. I want you to share your insight. I love to hear from other mums. That's why I interview so many beautiful mums from around the world, and I'm going to continue doing that. But I want to share even more and just kind of invite you to do this space with me. I'm going to be putting out a few little bits of shorter form content in between the longer episodes so that we can kind of journey this together. So I really hope you'll join me, and I'm really excited for where we're going to explore and what we're going to learn together. So welcome. Please do all of the fun things like subscribe. Our Instagram, you can go check out. It's at Missional Mamas. So welcome. Today I thought I would start this new little journey with just a bit of a background of my story and how I got to where I am and how I kind of have this heart for ministry and missions. And so I grew up as a missionary kid, as you've probably heard if you've listened to any of our previous interviews, or not any of them, but a few of them. And some of them are mums that I grew up with in the mission field, and it's so beautiful to see them now serving. And I then knew that the Lord was calling me into missions. And so I had those conversations with Andy, who's my husband. But back when we started to date, we had these conversations. He knew what my heart was, and he was on board with that. And he was really passionate about missions as well. And so that's been a really fun journey with us. And when we were early married, we were still studying. We were so young, and I felt a really strong conviction from the Lord to go and do some ministry and missions training. I felt like it wasn't the time for us to do after just finishing a very long degree for Andy. He did 7 years of study, and so I felt like that was not great for him to then go into Bible college straight away, but that was something for later. And so we went over and did a 3-month training course in missions with Iris Global. We tried to go to Mozambique and do that there at their base in Pemba, but due to some political unrest and terrorism, we were unable to actually go to Pemba, which is still on my bucket list. I'd still love to go. But we ended up mostly in Madagascar for that training. And that was life-changing, to be completely honest. We were floored by what the Lord did in our hearts, and in, I think, breaking our paradigm of what we thought missions and ministry had to look like, and what it just looked like to serve the person in front of you. And that was just so beautiful. And I quit my job to go and do that. Andy, my husband, had just finished his really long study. He'd done an undergraduate and then a master's degree, and there was not a long time between having finished that and then going on this training. And he decided to get just a really interim contract role, and so we'd both worked 2 jobs, 6 days a week, like crazy, to make this work financially. And then I'd quit my job, and he'd finished his contract, and we assumed we were going straight overseas to live. We thought it might be in Thailand. I had hoped that it might be Thailand. We both have a real passion for anti-trafficking and working with women, vulnerable populations and children. And we thought that was where the Lord was leading us for a while. And so we really thought, okay, great, well, we're going to go. As soon as we've done this training, we're just going to go. And unfortunately, the Lord just always loves to change our plans. And I think I say unfortunately, but when I look back, I always go, unfortunately, that's actually really good and really what I needed. We fell pregnant with our first child while we were on this training school, which was the result of the Lord speaking to both my husband and I on the same day that we needed to start having kids. And without too much detail, we fell pregnant instantly with her. That's our eldest daughter. And that changed a lot of things. And it really did mean that we had to kind of shift what we had expected and what we had, I guess, hoped for. And then COVID hit when she was just 6 months old. And so things really there was a big spanner thrown in all of our plans. But we really still wanted to pursue this whole ministry overseas. And so we looked into some different organizations that we could partner with, and through lots of prayer and discernment, ended up partnering with an organization that is based out of Mexico. It's a tiny little organization called Kaleo International. And they were incredible, and they welcomed us on board. They were just really supportive of the training that we wanted to pursue, the work that we wanted to put into learning before starting something or going and just jumping straight in. And so they invited us to come and do some training and ministry in Mexico, in the hopes of one day then being planted again with them. And so we did that kind of towards the end of COVID, when Australia finally reopened its borders. And by that time we had 2 kids, when we left it was 2 under 3, a 2-year-old and a 7-month-old. And we were just thrown into the deep end. And you'll hear some of my stories from that time as we go on. It was beautiful. I miss it every day. It was just glorious in so many ways, but it was a huge challenge for my heart and my brain. I think moving countries with young kids is never going to be easy. But I think I had a lot of expectations of what things would be like from my childhood, but also from just what I wanted, selfishly, I guess, what I wanted. And so when those weren't met, it was hard. And when we were isolated, it was hard. But the team there was just incredible. And you've heard some of those people share on here already. And that's why I've brought them on, is because they're gold. And I love them so dearly. And I learned so much from them in my time there. It was absolutely incredible. And so the Lord really, we went expecting to be there for quite a few years, but the Lord made it very clear, just like we'd been there just under a year, and the Lord called us back to Australia. And for a long time, there was so much like unknown of, well, we know that we're going to hopefully relocate to somewhere in the Middle East, but we are just in this process of like no doors are opening, nothing's working. It was just such a challenge for both Andy and I. And also, like, we had by that time a 3-year-old and a 1.5-year-old. And, you know, you're trying to tell them about, well, we're here, we're visiting family for a little while, but we're going to then move somewhere else. And, you know, that became really challenging when those doors weren't opening, and when, you know, what we expected again was challenged. And so we went through almost a stripping process of having to learn to rely so deeply on the Lord and so intently on what He's actually saying for every day. And just letting His plans come and us not force things. And so looking back now, I know exactly why He kept us here. It's because we fell pregnant with twins that ended up needing a long hospital stay. They were born at 30 weeks, and we needed lots of care beforehand while I was still pregnant, and we needed 2 months of care afterwards when the twins were tiny, tiny little preemie babies. And all of that would have been extraordinarily expensive, over $300,000 it would have cost us if we didn't have the beauty of healthcare and free public healthcare that Australia provides, which I am daily grateful for. We would have moved to a new country and potentially had to relocate for that healthcare or pay out of pocket because we wouldn't have had any insurance, having not lived there long enough. And like getting insurance when you're pregnant is very, very difficult. And so, I mean, all of these things added up to me going, oh, this is why we're here. This is why the Lord has us in Australia. And as much as that pained me on a lot of occasions, the wrestle of not being where we thought we would be, I am extraordinarily grateful for the Lord keeping us from forcing something that was not His timing and keeping us in a place that we needed to be in for our kids. And so our twins are healthy, crazy 2-year-old toddlers now. And we are still hoping and praying that the Lord opens up a door for us to move. But for now, while they had some medical stuff and while we needed to be here, we needed to put in like roots and really put effort into serving where we are. And so my husband started pastoring at our local church. We have been really just trying to serve the Lord where we are and let Him take care of the details and let Him take care of our future as well. And so we speak about, you know, our hopes and our desire to serve overseas again, and know that that is probably where the Lord is calling us. But we are also we've learned to be extremely flexible with our plans and hold them really loosely. And so all of that to say, I have 4 young kids. I have, you know, not a lot of time during my week, but I do have a lot of time with my kids. And I kind of was on this journey, especially having come back from Mexico and being in this, like, I'm in between, and it felt really hard to be intentional. But I have come to see it as so important and so valuable to be intentional with our children, but also intentional with those around us and building relationships with those around us. And not to discount the person in front of us, but to love just that one person in front of us, who's that one person that you can love today? Who's that, and if that's just your kids, that is okay. And I think, and I'm wanting to figure out how I continue this journey as my kids get older. How do I be more intentional with them at this new age? How do I have a heart and help them have a heart for different people groups and cultures and the people in their school and the people in their community and their neighborhood? How do I raise them and disciple them to have that love and that passion, and how do I convey that? And so I'm really interested in what others have to share, because I am by no means the authority or expert on any of this. And I want to hear from other mums and learn from how they do family life, how they do their walk with Jesus, how they do church, how they do, whatever it is. There's all these things that are that make up my week, and I want to see how others do it, and almost have a community and take what I love and the things that challenge me, let it challenge me and let me wrestle with those things. And then the things that I go, that's not for our family, I can leave. But I find motherhood in particular, and then on top of that, missions or ministry can be extremely isolating. I know that with motherhood, you're surrounded by either kids or maybe other mums, but it can be very isolating, I've found. And then serving in ministry, serving on the field, that all of that can be very isolating. And so I am just really passionate about having this community of shared learning, shared interest, and shared growing and journeying together. So that's a little bit about me and my story. And I'm going to share more, some more of what I've learned and some more of my childhood, I guess, some of the things that I've learned as a TCK, as a missionary kid, some of the things that I learned in Mexico as a mum, and some of the things of being in my home country as a mum, but then also just what others say and what I have learned from these mums that I've had chats with, mums that are unable to come on our podcast because of various security reasons or various time commitment issues, but that I've had these beautiful chats with, and I want to share what I'm learning. And so if that sounds interesting to you, I don't know, it's interesting to me, and I hope that there's some mums out there who might enjoy this and get something from it. But if that sounds interesting to you, I encourage you to follow along. And these episodes will be a bit shorter, so I'm hoping between 10 and 20 minutes of just some easy to, consume content that is just, in your busy day, you might not have time to listen to an hour-long interview, but hopefully you can listen to some of these shorter ones. So again, thanks so much for being here, and don't forget to subscribe and like and all of those good things, and follow along on Instagram. Thanks, guys.